Are you caring for someone with dementia? Do you find yourself choosing to stay home, giving up on outings and restaurants because it's just too hard to have to explain your situation to everyone you meet? Or do you worry that they'll react to your loved one's questions and confusion in a negative way, maybe even triggering them? I'm your host, Valerie Borgman, and if this sounds like you won't want to miss this episode. I'm so excited to welcome cousins Alicia and Jodie, founders of the Caregiver Club, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping you have a better experience out there.
I remember when Dad used it at the airport, my mom was kind of in that paranoid, why are you talking about me? What are you saying about me? And so I remember Dad using it at that point, and the woman behind the counter was fantastic.
Welcome to Desperately Seeking Senior Living, a podcast for sons, daughters, grandkids, and spouses who suddenly find themselves tangled in the search for senior living and care. If you like today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and check out our doable download in today's show notes for a printable summary of the show and a bonus tip from our guest. You're listening to our doable tips, short answers to your questions. Don't see your question listed? Send us a note. Then don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an answer. I am so happy to have you guys on the show. I work with so many families that their loved ones have dementia, Alzheimer's, and they want so badly to take them out in public. They want to give them those experiences, but they're really nervous about it. And so often we see families isolate and not go out in public with their loved one. And so I'm so excited to talk about the products that you have. What is the Caregiver Club all about?
So the Caregiver Club is really designed as a resource and a tool for caregivers to use to really kind of take one element of stress out of their lives and to allow those caregivers to go out into public and to know that people can have their information and have their kind of story right away, instantly, without having to communicate that and tell your situation over and over and over again. So that was kind of our, design of that, and our design of the card itself. How we got there was a little, off the path, but that's kind of what the card is.
Yeah, because it's a card.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a physical card that you hand out.
What does it actually say?
So the card itself says, I'm caring for someone with dementia or Alzheimer's. We appreciate your patience and kindness. We went back and forth with what to say because we wanted it to be quick. We wanted it to be informative, but we also, wanted the caregiver to feel like their information was being relayed quickly, and that was the quick part of that. Something that can be handed to an individual, whether it's a person behind the desk at the airport or out at the restaurant. You can hand it to a server and they can do a quick glance, and all of a sudden everybody's on the same page.
Right. We really found that when they had the knowledge and they understood what was going on, that it just led to compassion and everyone really helping and understanding. They really came back differently and were so willing to help. It made it so much easier and alleviated that stress when you were out.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that's really important about it being a card is that sometimes, I think the statistic is that like half the people with Alzheimer's know and then half don't. So, verbally saying it could really upset your loved one. They're like, no, I'm fine. Right.
Exactly.
And so,
right. Or they say, what are you saying about me? What are you doing?
yes.
We really wanted to protect their dignity, their just, everything when you were out with them. You wanted it to be smooth. You wanted it to be fun for them as well and not raise any anxiety in them either.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so you guys are cousins.
Correct.
And you each actually had an experience in your own personal life. Is this idea born out of those experiences?
Yes, it is. My dad has frontal lobe dementia. My mom went out of town for 4 days and I stayed with Dad, and he loves to go out. He's one that his dementia is let's go, let's go, let's go. He wants to drive around. And I just found that at restaurants, it was very difficult. And I was trying to whisper, I was trying to say kind of behind the scenes, like, no, he can't have that, or he didn't mean that. And so I started handwriting these cards. Some of mine were goofy and silly and, please be patient, you're getting a great tip, or Please, my dad has dementia. Please, please have some patience. So that's kind of how it started. And then Jody and I were carving pumpkins on Halloween. And I said to her, I really want to do this. This has been so helpful. The people just came back as different people when I did that. They were always supportive. Any server was so much kinder. It had so much more compassion. It just made such a difference. And Jody said, I am in. Let's do it.
My mom with Alzheimer's, my dad had as the primary caregiver, had been given one card similar years ago. I thought it was great. My dad used it until it was frayed, but at the time it just didn't resonate. And then when Alicia showed me this that she'd been doing with her dad, I was like, yes, yes, this is perfect.
And your tagline on your website, from desperate to doable, was such, it just hit home so much. It's so true. In the beginning, you are desperate. You're confused. You're trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? Your life has truly changed. And yet you want to keep it as similar as possible, especially for the family caregiver. And I found my mom really running in circles. And it is from desperate to doable. It is doable to go out and enjoy an experience with my dad at lunch and hand the card out and really have lunch. It's never the same. It's never as predictable as it used to be, but it is very doable. And I just loved when I read that on your ClearPath site, because it is so true. It is doable. This is just one tool that we think can really help caregivers to kind of get to that space.
Make it doable.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I thank you guys. And that's why I love what you're doing, because it is so simple, but so important. So what are some stories that you have? I know we've talked about like the people come back different, but do you have any specific stories of ways that it changed the experience?
There's been several times with service people in the service industry when they come back to the table, and behind my dad, they're giving me a thumbs up, or they're going, thank you, I get it. Or as they approach the table, they really look at him and they say, no, sir, that is your Diet Coke. It's okay. Whereas, but if you don't say anything, they think he's a jerk, or they think he's rude. And the little high fives and the thumbs up behind the scenes of him, they're always really conscious of not making him feel uncomfortable either, which is what I think is just beautiful. Is most of them come back different people and really willing to help and make our lunches or dinners or just a fun day out,
I love that. I love that. And what about for you, Jody?
So I do remember, because when this card kind of came back into my life, I remember specifically when dad used it at the airport. My mom was with him, they were still traveling. But my mom was very conscious that, she was kind of in that paranoid, why are you talking about me? What are you saying about me? And so I remember dad using it at that point, and the woman behind the counter was fantastic. And of course you can have your own ticket, and gave her like basically a receipt, and my dad the real ticket, and was just, so good with being able to like meet my mom's needs, but also make sure that my dad had everything was necessary to make him through security and the whole bit. I remember him saying, thank God for that. It was so those type of interactions using that have been super helpful.
Yeah. I mean, there are some behaviors that, you know, tend to make it even more difficult. Have you ever had a situation that was able to be de-escalated through the cards?
My mom just took my dad to Arizona for a trip, and we really encouraged her to do it because she's the caregiver, and she really wanted to go. And she had said when she got on the airplane, the stewardess was a little agitated with dad and was like, put your mask on and sit down. And my dad doesn't understand that, and he doesn't like it. And it was very hard, and he was very agitated and sometimes says inappropriate things or, gets upset. And my mom had one of the cards and handed it to the stewardess, and it really helped her kind of understand what was going on. And then she still wanted him to put his mask on, but she just came around a different way. She realized she needed a different approach. And dad did sit down. He did finally get his stuff. And she was much more helpful and willing to listen to him and understand that my mom was really doing the best she could. Mom did say, thank goodness I had that, because she said, I mean, I had to go talk to them. But once I gave him the card, they really didn't keep focusing on him. Because if you think it's just someone that's just, acting inappropriately or just being rude, and the airlines have obviously had a lot of issues with all these times we've had, but he wasn't. He just really didn't understand, didn't want the mask. And it really helped my mom have a better and enjoyable flight and get to Arizona safely and without a lot of issues.
We actually just had an episode a few episodes ago where a family had to move their dad. And to do that, it was cross country and it involved an airplane flight. And they literally thought they were going to be thrown off the plane.
Ah,
And they were so worried. They could have used this
yeah.
card so much.
Yes.
And I think the most important thing about your cards is that what you've said several times now is that it changes the other person's approach, and
Mhm.
sometimes that's all it takes is for the person that has Alzheimer's to feel that compassion is going to cause them oftentimes to not be as anxious. And so I could definitely see it calming down a situation that's starting to get a little out of control or a little heightened. Have you gotten any feedback from the folks that have purchased the cards?
We have this kind of goes back to finding the perfect balance between how much to put on the card and how much not to put on the card in terms of explaining. And it kind of just goes to show the level of education that's needed within the dementia Alzheimer's community. Somebody that bought the card said that she had given it to somebody that really wasn't educated in any way with dementia. It was a younger student, younger person at a restaurant, and the caregiver gave the card to the restaurant employee, and she had to follow up a little bit more with the card. So because the restaurant employee just didn't really know anything, I mean, just didn't for a lot of different reasons didn't have a lot of knowledge about it. So there's that kind of a little bit of should we put more on the card, less on the card, like how much more information? Because a lot of it has to do with educating. And we hope that we're actively working on our website, which is also on the card. So people could go to our website and learn a little bit more about dementia and Alzheimer's and get a little bit more familiar with it. So that's the only really feedback is that kind of fine line of giving people enough information and then having it be too long that they're not going to have enough time to read it in the moment. Everybody's loved them. I mean, we've had a lot of positive momentum, a lot of positive responses. I think the other thing is people remembering to use them. So sometimes we'll get the feedback of, "Oh, I wish I had
I
it.
so wish
I
had
wish
that
I had
card.
it. It was in my car." And I was like, "Well, it's not really working in your car. Can we
Right.
put it in your purse? Can we put it in the back of your phone?
Yeah.
Can we put it in your coat pockets?" That's why we have so many of them. Spread them around. Hand them to don't ask for them back. Just
Right.
give, give, give. But I think that's just also a natural habit. I mean, this is something that it takes a while for people to have a part of them, just like their keys and their phone and their wallet. I mean, I think that once people start using them more and more, that remembrance of having them with them will come.
Right. Because even my dad, my mom in the beginning, she kept saying, "Oh my gosh, we went out to lunch. I so wish I had your cards with me." I'm like, "Mom, you do. Where are they?" And it was cute. She's like, "I won't forget him again." I mean, once she kind of got in that situation, she realized how important because she'd used them before. She's like, "I now have them in every coat pocket everywhere."
Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes back to it's hard for us to change the way we communicate, right? And this is like a
Yeah.
new behavior that you kind of have to get used to. I love what you were saying about the example with the younger server, because I think that's the other really important sort of side effect of what you're doing is that every card that goes out is giving that awareness to a person that may not be dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's. And maybe you're then helping the next family that doesn't even have the cards or know about the cards.
Mhm.
I just think that this is another really important piece to what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is. My dad loves to say, "I want French fries and onion rings." And he gets very upset. And we keep saying, "Okay." And the guy, we've already told him, I said, "Just fries." So, okay. And then it comes in, God bless him. He's happy and he eats whatever he gets. But there can be a moment of struggle there where if the server is like, "What do I do? He wants this. Why are you telling me no?" So,
Yeah,
so it really does.
exactly. And of course, we're going to have all of the information in show notes. So people will be able to go to your website and order the cards. But you don't just have cards, you have some other items too. Tell us about those.
So we have buttons. They are
That's right.
magnetic. They're about an inch round. They've got our logo, our purple logo with the caregiver name on top. And so they are to be really worn by the caregiver. It's really another way to kind of instantly identify that you're with somebody extraordinary. That's kind of our tagline for them, is really to increase the awareness that you're with somebody that needs a little bit more love and attention.
Yeah, and it's the Alzheimer's purple. And then you have a bracelet as well.
We do. So then we have a beautiful kind of adjustable amethyst bead and gold bracelet. And that also can be worn by the caregiver, it can be worn by the patient, it can be worn by somebody in remembrance of somebody they've lost, friends, family, anybody that's supporting the kind of our mission and the caregiving mission. It's more of a support and to know you're kind of these caregivers, you're not alone. We're all in this kind of together. And so,
Well, you know what I really love about that, it kind of reminded me of we had Rosie Mankis on the show several episodes ago, and she was talking about self-care and a blessings bracelet,
mhm,
a
Mhm.
reminder to count your blessings and focus on the positive. But what I love about your bracelet is that, going back to what we were talking about, that as a caregiver, you have to change the way you communicate. And so I also kind of saw it as a reminder. It's so easy to get frustrated when you're in those situations, and to just have that reminder
mhm.
of, okay, I have to change this. I have to change how I communicate.
Right, right.
you know, and we're gonna get through this, or whatever it is. So I kind of saw your bracelet in that way as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's interesting because my mom, I give it to her when we're visiting together and she's a fiddler. So she fiddles and ties and, runs her hands through the beads. So she kind of uses it as a calming mechanism slash,
Right.
I mean, something to do while I'm visiting with her. She loves, I mean, she wraps that thing around her finger and then so she's got it in a completely different capacity and way of using it
Mhm.
than other people.
Yeah, I love it. So, with everything that you guys have done with the Caregiver Club, what would you say is the just number one tip that you have for families to make it more doable?
I think getting out in public, like you
Mhm.
said, it's so important. You cannot isolate. You really have to live your life, and it has to be a little differently. And these cards can really help you get out into your daily activities and do the things you used to do that you want to do with your loved one or with the person you're caring for. It can really make a big difference in getting you back out into life. And I can honestly say, in all the times that we've given it out, every time I've gone somewhere, I've never had a negative reaction. I've never had a bad experience with it.
Mhm.
It always has at least brought some kind of understanding and compassion from the people that we're with, some more than others, but I've never had a bad experience with it. I mean, it's always made every encounter that we've had go a little better, a little smoother.
Yeah, and I think that I would agree 100%. My first thought was to say, it takes a village and we're just one little piece of your village. And I think that you would be surprised when you start to go back out in the community and you do continue to try to live your life in an altered state or a new way, so to say, that you're not alone. And I think that the more that our cards get out there, the more the recognition of what you're going through, you'd be surprised how many people we're
Mhm.
surprised every
Every
day.
day.
How many we get it one or
Mhm.
two a day. Oh my gosh, my mom. Oh my gosh, my uncle. Oh my gosh, my, cousin.
Mhm.
So many, are living with dementia, Alzheimer's.
If we can help anyone get through a day a little better, there's so many pieces to it. There's so many people. Like Jody said, it does take a village, and we are one piece that can truly give you just a little bit less stress, alleviate that stress a little bit, go out and have a great day. We know it's not the same. We know it's not as always as planned. There's always different things when you're out with someone with dementia and Alzheimer's, but it's doable. Like you said, you don't have to be desperate. It is very doable.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Caregiver Club, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the lives of those living with dementia and those who care for them. Their caregiver cards help raise awareness about dementia and Alzheimer's and soften the hearts of those you interact with. With the Caregiver Club, knowledge is power. Find more information in today's show notes. Check out this episode's doable download in show notes for details, including industry terms and definitions we discussed, as well as a bonus tip from our guest. Have questions or your own tips to share? Leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, make it doable.